sinful, they also cause me to not make good decisions and choices. And my choices are all based around what emotions I'm trying to avoid, rather than actually whether they are wise or truthful choices. Right?
So I've been a bit confused when you're talking about choosing emotion.
Yep.
So in the past, I'm sure a lot of people have gone down this track, but you know, I'll be listening to a song or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, pretty sad about that. And then I'll see another video.
Would you stop there first? You're listening to the song and you're pretty sad about that.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? You're not crying.
Oh no, sometimes I'll have a bit of a cry about it.
Yeah, but you observe that you're pretty sad about that.
Yeah.
It's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So your intellect is aware you are sad about it.
Yeah.
You've just made a choice.
Yeah, okay. Wait. Can you say that again, please?
What's the choice? Like, in that moment, if you were in a sort of a childlike state, what would you do? Like, if you're listening to a song and you're sad, what would you be doing?
Cry.
And you wouldn't even think about it, would you?
No.
You'd just go, cry. I'm not even thinking, oh, I'm sad, I'm going to cry now. As soon as you do that, you're making a choice.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, I get in my head because then I go, I'll see another video that you're talking about. I've heard you talking to people and you're like, I know, but when you're crying about that, you're wanting to cry about that. It's not, you're not actually crying. I don't know. I get confused with that. And then I get in my head.
Well, the main problem is we don't want to cry about it, isn't it? And that causes to decide or make a choice to avoid it, right? So an example of that is you hear a song that affects you emotionally, but you don't let yourself feel the emotion that it affects you with. So some songs are like you want to get up and dance, right? But you don't. Right? Now, if you were in your soul, you would. And it wouldn't matter whether you're in the street or maybe, I don't know, at work or anywhere, you get up and dance because the emotion is saying dance, and so you dance. And you don't think about it. You just do it because that's how a child connected to its emotion, that's how we've been designed, to be connected to our emotion and just have them as we have them. Right? As soon as we say, I feel a bit sad, and we're not actually right at that moment crying, and in fact what actually happens when you do this is you don't even notice yourself feeling sad. You actually just cry straight away. So there's no even observance of the emotion, you're just in it. Do you understand? As soon as you have an observance of the emotion, you're working against your design. You understand?
Yeah.
The design is to just feel what you feel right in the moment. So let's say somebody turns on some beaty music or whatever, and you feel the beat of it, and you want to get up and dance, and so you do, right? That's you being more connected. Now, with things that we like, we generally are more connected to them. But when it comes to feelings we don't like fear in particular, and sadness, and so grief, even anger for most people, they don't let themselves feel it when they have it, right? They just don't. Because we go, oh, I'm observing that. And straight away, as soon as we're observing, we're working against the design. That's our intellect now, observing the emotion, rather than us actually having the emotion, right? So, like when I'm angry, I go in my room and I'll be angry. Like, if that's how I feel, that's how I feel. Like, there's no oh, who's around? Like, maybe Mary's going to be upset, or maybe Mary be scared, or any of that. It's just like, no, straight in, do it. Mary's learnt by now that I'm not going to harm her or hurt her having it. And then I also can feel straight away, like usually within 30 seconds, the grief that's under it. Because I let myself have the first emotion, I can also have the next one. Make sense? If I don't do that, I'm choosing. As soon as I'm choosing my emotion, I'm working against my design. You don't see a child choosing its emotions, you only see a child having them. Right? You only see adults choosing. Right? That's because we've been taught to do such a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just even the choice being made to avoid the experience is working out of harmony with the design right from that point. you're working out of harmony with your design. Now, every time you work out of harmony with your design, what's going to happen is there's going to be a consequence for working out of harmony with it. Right? So, an example of that is, I'm listening to a song, I feel like I need to cry, but I don't. A lot of people get a headache straight after that. That's a consequence of working out of harmony with the design. And then they go, oh wow, I've got a headache, I don't know what brought that on. Right? I'll take a pill to get rid of the headache. That's also working out of harmony with your design, because now you're not only denying that the headache is caused by the holding of your grief, the attempt to suppress your grief, but you're also now adding to that problem by trying to suppress the acknowledgement of even the body's acknowledgement of your suppression emotionally by suppressing the body's acknowledgement. You know? So you're making yourself one even more step removed from your emotion. Makes sense? Yeah. And this is what most of us do with almost everything we feel. Right? And this is why I'm saying and most of us have no idea of the significance this plays in our life. Like how extreme it has become in our life. And our current lives are often a complete reflection of how extreme we've become controlling and making decisions about our emotions. So the whole desire to control an emotion is a decision about an emotion, right? So that's me making a choice. I'm choosing to either experience that emotion or to deny it. So it's best to say here the choice is not to just, as soon as I'm making a choice to have an emotion, I'm already out of harmony with having the emotion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like the acknowledgement that's I'm sad.
Yeah, as soon as you're already out of harmony with having the emotion. Just that, you know, a person who's sad will just go and have a cry without thought. Yep.
How does that go? Because I know sometimes you've spoken about acknowledging how you feel helps. Is it better to just...
Well, it depends how you're going to acknowledge how you feel.
Right.
If your intellect is acknowledging how you feel,
yeah,
then of course it has no benefit whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because your intellect doesn't help you feel the emotion.
Yeah.
To acknowledge how you feel, you've got to really feel how you feel. That's how you acknowledge how you feel. So a lot of the words I've been using in the past, what many of you have done, and gone, oh, well, I'll try to do that. Mm-hmm. But already you don't understand what I'm teaching. What I'm teaching is, no, it has to be a feeling-based process to do that, not an intellectual one. And most of us go, but I'm confused now because, see, we start in denial of our emotions, right? As an adult, I mean. Not as a child. The child's in complete connection with its emotion, but due to the experiences, as we've mentioned, we get to the stage where we're in denial of our emotion. So once we're in the stage where we're in denial of our emotion, now, of course, there's things we're going to have to do to at least acknowledge emotion. And I described some years ago in 2007 a whole lot of intellectual things you're going to have to do just to even acknowledge one emotion. Because for most people, they've got so many layers of intellectual crap that wraps up every emotion they have that they don't want to experience, that somehow you're going to have to undo that. And that's a very frustrating process. Some of you are in that process right now, and it's very frustrating. You find yourself very frustrated, right? It's good to do it, because you need to. But you also need to see that, at some point, I need to have this sort of internal thing switch that happens. And the internal switch needs to go from me deciding about my emotions, looking at my emotions, analysing my emotions, and all of that stuff, into forgetting all of that and just, you could say surrendering to them, couldn't you? Because the reality is, if we look at the word surrender, what does it mean? Is that how you spell it?
Yeah.
No? Yep.
Yeah.
So, what does it mean to surrender?
To soften into them.
No, it doesn't mean soften.
Hold
your mic up on.
To, I guess, like, relinquish what I think and kind of surrender to what is coming to me. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, yeah, and can you see a person already with the intellectual injuries can't explain it?
Yeah.
The state it's a state, it's not actually a process.
Mm.
It's like trust. Trust is a state, it's not a process.
Like let go.
You could say let go, yes, let go. Means let everything just drop where it is, doesn't it really? Surrender to everything. Whatever is happening around you, whatever feeling you're having just happens in the moment and you don't even think about it anymore. That's surrender, right? But the average person has no concept of it because they want control of the process of surrender. As soon as you try to get control of the process of surrender, you're already out of harmony with your design and you'll never surrender. A lot of people say to me, I'm working towards surrendering. I'm going, no, you're not. Like, there's no such thing as working towards surrendering. You're either in the state of surrender or you're not. Right? There's things you might need to undo so that you can surrender. So there's a lot of false beliefs that you can have that prevent your surrender that you do need to work through. And you could say many of our sins are about the false beliefs we have about surrendering. Can you so for example, if I decide to violently harm you in any way, emotionally or intellectually or physically, sexually or whatever, every one of the choices I've made to do such violence has to have come from the fact that I don't want to surrender to something. Right? So in my desire to control my own possibility of surrendering, I then perform many sinful acts. Right to the point of murdering somebody, you can do. Right, and have many, many sins committed as a result of my inability to surrender to the way I'm designed. Makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Hannah?
I've started to recognize when I'm angry.
Yep.
In a way that I haven't done before.
Done before. Yep.
No. Yes. and what I do is I suddenly realize I'm frustrated now, I'm angry now, I'm whatever, in the anger dimension.
Mm-hmm.
What I do then is that I drop that and go out to my boxing ball and go into the feeling and feel it in boxing. Is there surrender or is that fooling myself?
Well, it's not yet surrender, no. Because when you're really angry and you're angry in the moment, you will be in the moment angry. You will let yourself be angry what you're angry about in that moment. Does that make sense? You won't allow, if you're in harmony with love, you won't allow yourself to act in a manner that would harm others in your rage, but you would feel like harming others, for sure, right?
Yeah.
And as well as you would have all sorts of feelings about judgment about it, and all sorts of things might come up, but they are all just wrappers to stop you from dropping underneath. And by the way, anger is not a real emotion yet, is it? Anger is a wrapper.
Yes.
Right? Because I want to choose to avoid surrender to another emotion. You see, if you always surrendered to your grief, would you ever get angry? No. If you always surrendered to your shame, you'd never get angry. If you always surrendered to grief, you'd never get angry. If you always surrendered to any feeling that's challenging, and you always were surrendered in a state of surrender to it, you would never get the anger. So the anger is in itself telling you don't want to surrender.
I see.
So part of the things that I do for myself when I do get angry, which is pretty rare, but when I do, I go, I don't want to surrender. But why am I not surrendered to something else? Right? What is it that I don't want to surrender to? Because it's going to be a much tougher emotion than anger. Anger is a created emotion to help you gain control of the thing you do not want to surrender to.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a very important fact to bear in mind with regard to anger. Now, many of us stored anger as well as other emotions when we were in childhood. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to experience some anger because of that.
Oh yeah, so there is a layer that is stored in me that I have to get out of me.
Yeah, and not only the layer of the emotion of anger, but also the layer of what beliefs drive it needs to come out of you.
Yeah, and perhaps that's something we could bring up, because you and I were talking about this morning. So when Jesus is talking about surrender, a lot of what I'm thinking and feeling about is this state where all of my judgments and desire, like intentions to prevent emotion, are dissolved. So I'm in a state where there's no resistance to feeling about anything, whether it's, that's why he's talking about dancing, you know, I might be giggling or I might be sobbing, but there's no judgment, there's no resistance, there's no, so what I hear from your question, Anna, is you're sort of saying, well, I'm doing this set of actions and I'm having an awareness and I'm doing a set of actions. Is this surrender? In my current condition, where I am in my progression, my concept of surrender is, no, there's no trying to, am I doing it, am I not, there's no resistance to whatever I feel whenever I feel it. Which is not to say that what you're doing isn't worth less, but it's to understand that there's going to have to be a transition in the future where all your judgment of emotion is gone, and you love your design, which is what Jesus was saying. You love that I'm an emotional person, I'm created, I'm one half of a soul that is purely emotional, and isn't that awesome? You know, most of us feel like, isn't that
Terrible.
terrifying, traumatic, horrible? And even when it comes to joyful feelings, most of us have that feeling. So that's what I hear when Jesus is talking about surrender, is that there's this breaking down of all of my judgment of emotion so that I feel freedom in that place.
Yeah, so you could say one thing we need to learn to do, right? This is all about coming to love yourself, actually. When we talk about loving self, a lot of people don't realise it, but it's really talking about loving how you're designed to be. And partly you've been designed to be an emotional being, so you need to come to love it, like love it so much that there's no resistance to it at all. Nothing inside of you that stops you resisting loving yourself in this manner. When you think about how most of us feel about emotion, how do we really feel about it? So for yourself, how do you feel about it? Your real feelings, you know.
Can I say
It's sort of,
something?
yes, you can, but to me it's sort of something, I feel newborn, because I've shut down every emotion all my life.
But that's not how you feel about it.
So what is your judgment of emotion?
Because if you felt that way about it, you would be having it all the time. So,
Okay.
yeah. So why are you not having it all the time? Like even the anger. The anger is telling you you're not having sadness, right? So why do you want the anger rather than the sadness? What is the reason? What's the feelings behind all that?
I have to ponder about that. I don't
Can you
know.
see the problem?
Yeah.
This is
Most of us can't. Most of us have to use our intellect to even find out why. What? Our intellect's useless in this regard.
yeah. If you go inside now, just do an exercise, everyone. Breathe
Into your diaphragm.
Feel the center of me. Imagine now, I'm just emotional in whatever way I feel. No matter who's around, no matter what I'm doing, I'm allowed to have any emotion that happens. What does that feel like inside? Can anyone feel anything?
Just yell them out, guys.
Look like an idiot.
Yeah. Shame. Worry about judgment. Yeah.
Shame, yeah.
Overwhelming.
Worry.
Danger.
Danger.
Weak.
Yeah, so what's that? Presumptuous?
Audacious or
Audacious.
or unworthy it is really, isn't it? How?
Well, that's that.
Yeah.
One more day.
Powerless.
Powerless.
What was
Sorry,
that
what was
one?
that? Entitled. Failure.
Unsafe.
Yeah, which is really danger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unsafe.
Attack.
Yeah.
Afraid.
Attack. Abuse.
Exploitation.
Can you see, like, none of these are very nice, helpful words, are they? To help you get into your feelings? Can you see that?
Well, can you see why
No.
no one's surrendered yet? You know, because we have all these feelings if that's what it's going to be like.
And we
When-
could just keep going and keep going and keep going, couldn't we? Here, you could keep going for days, probably listening to different things. To be honest, you could say all of those are your excuses
Yes.
to not surrender.
Yeah. Because as you start to work through this very problem, so some of you know, this is the very problem that I've been focused on. Not what is this emotion, what is this memory, how do I deal with that? No. What are my beliefs about emotion? Because unless I clear out that warehouse, everything's going to be hard every time. So
And particularly, what are your false beliefs?
that's right, clear out the junk, do the spring clean.
But unfortunately, to clear them out, you've got to feel emotion.
That's right, and it's a bit of a catch-22. It's tricky. It's a tricky territory. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it feels like. So Caden just threw up his hands, like,
But even that is a good state.
That's where you start. Like, shit, how? Excuse my language. But how? It feels
But even this thing,
impossible.
what?
Yeah.
That's you having an experience now you couldn't control. Just in that moment, you didn't control it, right?
Which is a sign.
Which is good thing.
Yeah.
To go, what? I have to do that? What? That's a good thing. So most of you are feeling that, but you go,
You go, I'm not going to feel that.
you know,
And then you can see why a lot of us get caught up in like, oh, I had a good cry about this, or I felt sad, I was listening to the song, and so we're automatically in these other addictions of trying to avoid how we really feel the first time Jesus got up with the whiteboard and said, the answer to your eternal happiness, your relationship with God, everything is to feel everything that's inside of you. And everyone went, excuse my language, oh shit, no. They had all those things triggered.
well, there's a lot of sin, right? And sin is pain, so that means feeling a lot of pain. And the average person goes, he's an idiot, he's asking me to feel pain.
It's impossible, it's unrealistic,
Crazy.
it's unloving, no one can ever do that, like all these feelings.
We get so many emails about this, like, man, the amount of emails we get about you're a narcissistic, like not narcissistic, sadistic person requiring me to feel my bad feelings. I've spent my whole life trying to avoid my bad feelings. Like, how dare you suggest to me?
Or people saying it's unnecessary. This is what you do. You just reframe it, or you write it on a piece of paper and burn it, or these
There's this
kinds of
new
things.
therapy, There's this new therapy that I can use.
Which is, it's not to make fun of that, but I think collectively our experience is that doesn't work. Yeah. But what I was going to say is, like, working through these feelings does feel really tough. But as you do, you begin to see the falsehood of it. And it's the beginning of faith, actually, where you start to feel, you have moments of feeling when you're in your feelings where you feel like, oh, this is my strength now, not my weakness. This is how I discern things properly, not where I'm unreliable. This is me really living now. But at the beginning, you have to go through all these feelings where you feel like that's not going to be the case.
Lorna?
When you surrender, that's a state where you have no beliefs.
Oh, that's not necessarily
No?
true. No.
That's the question.
All of my celestial friends have a lot of beliefs.
And in fact, you're not just clearing out the false beliefs about emotion, you're gaining
True beliefs.
true beliefs about
Yeah.
emotion.
Okay, so
That's what I just described, that thing there, where you start to feel like, no, this is where I'm strongest when I'm in my emotions.
Okay. Because when I look at those words, these are beliefs I have.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the false beliefs I
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
And that's what you mean by saying, look at your beliefs.
Yeah.
And this is the...
And feel them.
Yes, and
Mm.
when I can, because I see these as all my blocks as why I don't feel.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go through, I can't do this, is a belief.
Mm.
I'm
And,
going
and
to
it's, you need to do more than that. You need to go, I can't do it is a false belief.
Yes,
It's not just a belief, it's a
Yes.
false one.
yes,
Do you want to keep your false beliefs or get rid of them? Is really the question.
yes.
Now, most people would say, when you make a comment like that to people, most people are, yeah, I'd like to get rid of my false beliefs. But actually, all of your false beliefs have been created for one point, so that you don't have to surrender to your emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
So the majority of people don't want to get rid of their false beliefs. So you can talk to people about their false beliefs, and they can even be fascinated about the discussion about their false beliefs.
Yeah.
But as soon as they have to feel their false beliefs, they go like nuts. Literally. deliberately, like many psychotic as a result of trying to avoid the emotion that's under the belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I was looking at my mother's stuff, and why don't I want to go there? It's not I want to go there. No, I don't want to go there.
That's right. It's a choice.
Yeah,
You're making
it's
a choice. Yep.
And then it went to no, because I feel like I can punish her like this.
Yeah, but that's one choice, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
then-
While you're staying, see, for you to go into your emotions about something, you are automatically forgiving the person who created those
Yes.
emotions.
Yeah.
And most of you don't want to do that
Yes.
because you want them to come to you and say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that," and then you want them to do a whole heap of things on top of that to prove that they're sorry and whatever. But after they've done all of that, you know what's you're going to end up with? The same emotion still within you is what you're going to end up with.
Yes.
So you want all of that,
Yeah.
but none of it's going to really work.
Yeah.
But that's what we want.
Yeah. Well, this is the dialogue I've been having.
Yeah,
That I don't want to. I want the revenge. I want her to pay.
yeah.
And
It's
and
unjust.
it's unjust and all of these things. And I've been trying to see these as these false beliefs that I have, that this is good, right? This is the falseness of it. I've had it for so long.
Yeah.
You know, this is what's kept me going. And
Well,
I
there's
see.
even in the injustice feeling, there's a self-righteous thing that goes, how dare somebody ask me to give up what's just?
Yeah.
How dare they? Like, you have so much internal self-righteousness
Yes.
about, and this is everybody, not just yourself, right?
Yeah.
You've got so much internal self-righteousness that you shouldn't have to surrender.
Yes.
Like, how dare somebody suggest such a stupid thing to me,
Yeah.
right? And then we go further than that, of course, and we go, right, I'm going to fight against anybody who suggests that I'm going to have to surrender.
Yeah.
And the issue is also, by surrendering, you automatically forgive. And many of us don't want to forgive automatically, for lots of reasons.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned about my hips and the stiffness and the inflexibility and all, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought, well, I can keep going this way and look at my stiffness and continue to get more stiff, you know, and then become so inflexible that all I'm doing is creating more unhappiness.
Yeah.
But I've only gone to, well, what is the truth? Why am I stuck there? And instead of saying, God, help me with this, I'm going, well, I don't want to go
But can you see, even in the solution, we're still in against our design.
Yeah,
We're still going, why am I like this? What's going on?
yeah.
Instead of feeling what you're like.
Yeah.
Like, you need to let yourself feel how inflexible you are.
Yeah, well, I went to revenge when you said that, like, revenge. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and quite often what happens when you start to feel what you don't want to feel,
Yeah.
you instantly get the reason why you don't want to feel it.
Yeah.
And that's very helpful. But then you've got to have to feel that.
Yeah.
Why do you want revenge?
Yeah.
Like, there's beliefs driving that, you need to feel them too.
Yeah.
But you can see if you're ready to feel one layer, you'll get ready to feel the next and the next. And you won't need to educate yourself what is the next. It will be automatically, after you've done one layer, the next will come up. So an example of that is, let's say the first layer is just anger, and not I'm not talking about rage or like resentment, because that's even beyond anger,
Yes.
right? If we just look at anger itself, if I'm now recognising I'm angry, then once I let myself feel my anger properly, if I surrender to my anger, within 30 to 60 seconds I'll be crying. Usually that will happen, because the anger has been a wrapper around the next thing that I did not want to surrender to, right? And then it's like, do I want to cry? Now, what I see a lot of people do, they get angry, and then they just start expressing their anger, and they start crying, and what do they do then?
Stop.
Stop. They force themselves to stop. They attack themselves. They abuse themselves. They criticise themselves, judge themselves. They go, I'm stupid now. You know, they're forcing themselves to stop crying, which is the reason why their anger keeps coming up, because they don't want to go and surrender to the next layer of emotion. They just don't want to go from one layer to the next till they get to the bottom of things. Now, if you learn how to get to the bottom of things quickly, you will progress very, very quickly. But if you can't get to the bottom of things quickly, you're going to take hundreds, if not thousands of years to progress. That's the fact. the truth about people's progress. And a lot of it is just because you don't want to have the surrender to the very thing you're trying to control, which is your emotions. You're trying to control the raw experience of something. So for an example of that, most people who are very intellectual are in complete denial of almost every emotion, right? Because I've learned this is how I can get away from every emotion. I just keep denying I have them, keep working my way, use their intellect constantly. Usually these people are very busy intellectually, they're always doing something to control themselves in some way. They're always busying themselves some way as well. They can never settle. They can never be sit and be calm. And this is why also there's a big attraction to things like yoga and breathing and all these other techniques that people teach you now to become calm. It's like, I've got now a controlled way to become calm, right? So that's going to work for me. Beauty. That means I don't have to feel my emotions. I can just become calm by breathing, or by doing some yoga, or by doing some special exercise, or tapping, or whatever. I can become calm. And that's all still about controlling the process of surrender. This is why all these things fundamentally don't work. And also, people don't progress from them. You look at the love the person has doing these things, and frequently they become even more unloving than they were before when they do them. Yeah. If we go back to Denise.
Hi, is that where the whole feeling of an internal fight going on in your body comes from? Feels like your heart's fighting your guts and vice versa. You feel that you want to do something and you come up with every other reason under the sun not to do it.
Yeah. It's all about not wanting to surrender some fundamental feelings, isn't it? And accept some truths, because all the truths have to be accepted feeling by your feelings. So you're not going to accept some truths either. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So Orphan, then Nick over here, and then Nikki over there.
I believe that I have resistance to surrender.
Yep.
And
you have a firm resistance to surrender.
yeah.
But you're not most people do.
Yeah.
There's I would say there's probably maybe 5 or 6 people in the room who have worked through some or a fair portion of their resistance to surrender. No one here is yet in a state of complete surrender. But people are working through the reasons why they don't want it.
I think the reason why I don't want to can be that I have a lot of unloving emotions in me that I want to control, so I don't expose arrogance, condescension, superiority, or those feelings towards others. So I need to keep them under control.
It's not just that. You don't want to face the reality that you have them either. So it's not only that you don't want to feel them, but you also don't want to face the truth that you actually have them. It's sort of like most people have a deep illusion about themselves. They have an image of themselves in themselves, and this image of ourselves generally governs what we're prepared to work our way through or not. And this underlying image of yourself can cause you to sort of stay very arrogant in the position that you're in towards having a surrendered state. And in fact, what happens is you enjoy not having a surrendered state, is what you think you enjoy it. But of course, it's very hard to enjoy anything in a denial state. So it's only the absence of pain that you're enjoying, rather than the actual absorption of pleasure that you're you're having. But most people feel the absence of pain is good enough for me. Mind you, it's not an absence of all kinds of pain either. If you think about it, any emotional pain you deny causes a physical pain you can't deny. We're also making a choice. I'd rather feel my physical pain than have my emotional pain, because my emotional pain hurts more. Ironically, that's what most of us feel. And many of us die in huge amounts of physical pain. On Earth, there's a lot of people right now dying in huge amounts of physical pain that is self-caused because they didn't want to feel emotional pain. Right? that's how strong our will is, that, you know, and how unloving our will is towards ourselves. You know, it's like I said, it's an unloving projection towards your own design. You know, we hate how we've been designed. And if you look at the earth today, the general attitude when it comes to emotion is hate it. It is like, hate your emotion, like, do whatever you can to control it, to keep it under wraps, to make out you don't have it. You know, there is so much seething resentment on earth about emotion. You can see why many of us have the attitude, because it's so strongly held in the on the entire earth socially. And it doesn't matter what culture you go to either. Like, we've been to so many cultures travelling, and every one of them hates emotion one way or the other. You know, very rare to find. You know, I'm sure there might be some tribe in Africa that nobody's ever met yet that might still, you know, maybe have some connection to their feelings, but I haven't met them, you know. But everyone we have met has this seething resentment about their feelings, which is a seething resentment towards God and also towards yourself about how you've been designed. Yeah.